Kia ora and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lounge, a space for you as a healthcare leader to take a moment, pause, reflect, get a fresh perspective on the work that you're doing. I'm Katie, I'm your host, and I have worked in healthcare for over 30 years. I was about to say lived and breathed healthcare for the last 30 years, and that kind of has a bit of a ring to it at the moment. And I now get to work with leaders and their teams so that they can feel supported and encouraged and a bit challenged sometimes in the work that they are doing. So this week I was kind of having that plan. We've done a couple of weeks talking about vertical development, and I talked about last week an example of how someone in my network really helped pull me back from the brink. And that was a great story, and yet I'm not quite back from the brink. I've had a number of days where it's just been hard work. It's a real effort to just get up and keep going and keep going. And this idea of losing the plot, it's kind of what I wrote about in the No Jedi email last week, this idea of plot losing. And there's a lot of things going on at this time of year in general, and it's an okay time. And when I look back over previous years, whatever job I've been in and whatever work I've been doing this time of year can get a bit tough. And I know I'm not alone in that space. So this idea of losing the plot took a different kind of dive, I suppose, in the fact that it just started spiraling a whole load of negative self-talk. And I would be saying things to myself like, why am I bothering? Is this making any difference? And then that trips into, who do I think I am to be doing this? And then that always falls into the, you should never have left your job. And so this kind of spiral kind of goes on and goes downwards and downwards. And I was thinking the other day, it felt like you're kind of spiraling down a plug hole, and my regular connections with people in my network kind of just bring me back up a little bit. And I am doing all the things that I know matter, things like walking and yoga and meditation and drinking water and all those things. And this morning was a great example because I really did not want to get out of bed and go for a walk. But I made that kind of, no, you're going to do it. You're going to get up and you're going to do it. And so this is all kind of going on. And then I get a call from a friend who tells me about another friend who's had serious collapse and has had surgery and is obviously in a pretty critical state. And then I hear about another person who I used to work with in the UK and that she had died very suddenly. And I look at Adam, who struggles with pain most days and it's all connected with his ongoing treatment for cancer, and yet still puts in 150% while at work, often with little acknowledgement or appreciation. And then I think about the number of people that are either being disestablished or jobs losing, all this stuff going on in the world. And then you go to the world, right? The number of bad things that are happening and the inequity or the racism or the wars that are going on. And it's kind of like, why am I worrying about these little insignificant things for me? And so then I beat myself up even more because I'm kind of like, who do you think you are? You're now being really miserable about this. And yet there are so many people, you've got so much more than so many other people. Who do you think you are? And so you can see this spiraling can go quite on. I do spiraling quite well, as you can tell by this. And it's probably one of the reasons why I do what I do, because the conscious awareness of it allows me to connect really well with people, that kind of humility and understanding and compassion. And so when I get to this point, when I'm thinking like this, what do I do? Because it has been quite tough and I've been irritated, gritty, that real gritty kind of feeling. And it's just like, that's not what I want to feel at all. So I remind myself what I would tell a friend or somebody I'm working with, because these are not uncommon feelings. As human beings, we can often have waves of despair for all sorts of reasons. And one of my favourite phrases that I tell them and talk to them about, or talk to friends about, is that compassion is not pie. There is enough compassion in the world for everybody. It's not something we can just slice up and go, here's a bit for those people, here's a bit for those people. And that means because their needs are so great, there's nothing left for me. I'm not talking about that space of becoming self-indulgent and ignoring other people. There's a line, right? I'm forever talking about this magical line that we have to sort of walk down. What I'm saying is that there is enough compassion for what is going on in the world and for other people, and to be compassionate to ourselves. For me, to show myself some self-compassion. And actually, when you think about it, while I've become challenged by that analogy of you've got to fill your own cup in order to give to other people, there is some talking and some reading that I've done around this fact that you can't actually be compassionate with other people if you can't be compassionate with yourself. Same kind of idea of you've got to love yourself, care for yourself in order to be able to do that. And it's a bit role modeling. It's about, I don't know, but it's that stuff that we have to be able to do this to ourselves. And so that they were all the thoughts that were swirling around in my brain this morning when I was just lying there, and I wanted to pull myself up and just stay there in bed and not acknowledge anything about today. And so while I think that rest is important, I know that rest is important, and then there are days where a duvet day would be exactly what I needed. It was about being able to really be in the moment of how I was feeling and how I wanted to feel. And I knew that for how I wanted to feel, getting up and going for that walk was going to be the most useful thing for me. So there can be this real uncomfortableness with actually sitting with that feeling, particularly these less desired feelings. It's kind of like it's hard work to do that. And I did a session with a group not that long ago, and they were very resistant, or not, resistance not quite the right word. They were reluctant, that's a better word. They were reluctant to go to the space of self-reflection because they were not sure what they would be able to do with the emotions that come up. And that's a really real feeling, a real fear about this stuff. And so the spaces that I go to often come into this arena of self-compassion, and that idea of compassion and empathy not being like pie, there is enough of it. This abundant space came from Brené Brown, so I'll often, and it's sitting here right now as I flick through before recording this, her Atlas of the Heart, where she looks at all these emotions. And her work has been a lot around the fact that just being able to talk through that and name them really can be supportive. The other go-to place for self-compassion is Christine Neff. Her website on self-compassion is phenomenal. Actually, there's an awful lot of resources that you can either just read and follow the sort of instructions, or there are some recordings that you can play. So there's a lot of space. If self-compassion feels like I wouldn't know where to start, they are the places I would say go to. The best one, it's actually, I was really pleased when I had a check of her website before recording this. One of her exercises is about talking to yourself like a good friend. And in the same way, I can very easily sit and chat with a client or a friend and go, yeah, you need to be compassionate to yourself, and it's okay to feel like this. I can give all of that great kind of advice and stuff. The best thing to do when you're feeling like I'm feeling right now is just to turn it around for yourself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend. When a good friend is feeling down and low, what would you say to them? When a good friend is wondering, why on earth am I bothering doing this? What would you say to them? And then say that to yourself. So it's the go-to space for me. When I know I'm beginning to spiral again, I use that one in. You have to have lots of tricks, right? You've got to have your things that you say to in your moment. You've got to have the actions that you know that are going to keep you supported and feeling well. And you've got to have the people that you can then go and share this with and talk with. And I'm hugely privileged and very blessed because I have those things. So being able to notice where you're at. whatever's going on at this point in time as we come towards the end of the year, just knowing that whatever that is, that's okay. That there's all these reasons for why we feel the way that we feel, giving yourself permission to feel those and to acknowledge them. And then if they don't feel particularly pleasant or uncomfortable, what would you say to a good friend if they were feeling those things? Our emotional language is not something that we are taught as leaders in work, and it is not something that is often brought up in terms of, leadership development and all that kind of stuff, and how to be a manager. It doesn't come into it. How for us to manage our own emotions and understand our own emotions. But actually, when I look back on my career, it's probably the thing I wish I knew how to do a lot sooner. So very kind of just really vulnerable, really honest sharing with you, because it felt like that was what was needed. I got up this morning, I managed to do that walk around the park, and as I'm normally trying to pay attention to the trees and the birds and the amazing beauty of that, and there was a lot of I was a bit later there this morning, and there was a lot extra people that I didn't normally see. There was a very rowdy crowd of guys that were just so joyous as they were walking along. That was amazing. And there was this amazing couple with actually more than a couple. There was about 4 of them, all with dogs, and that was quite energetic as well. So there was lots of energy spikes for me as I was walking around the park today. And there's a one point as I'm walking around the park where always, regardless of what else is going on, my brain kind of filters it down to this is what's front of mind. This is what it is. And I usually either take a voice note, or as in this context that I did today, I got back to the car and I sat down and I just made a bit of a voice note about what those feelings were, that kind of rawness of the emotions and how I'd been feeling, this spiraling downwards, trying to do everything I can and yet still feeling terrible. And then comparing that with everybody else and thinking, who do I think I am? This is awful that I'm feeling awful because I don't deserve to feel awful. And then being able to breathe into that space of self-compassion. So wherever you're at right now, I hope you've got that space, that time. So just pause and just do what it is that you need to do. And if you give yourself a few moments, you'll know what that is. Trust yourself in that space. I am running a online reflection session for the end of the year, and we'll be using the emotional culture deck. And the emotional culture deck is a phenomenal tool for being able to take the hard work out of thinking, what is it that I'm feeling? Or what is it that I want to feel? So we'll be doing a bit of reflecting back over the year and thinking what has it felt like this year, and we'll just be using a few prompts and the cards as a tool to help you kind of pull out what have been those core feelings for the year. But then also to look forward to thinking about what it is that you want to pull in more, feel more next year, or getting really raw, the things that you don't necessarily want to feel, but you might from time to time, and how might you then be able to manage and cope when they come up. So on this topic of kind of emotional regulation, emotional awareness and emotional literacy, how do we want to feel is a good question to be asking at this time of the year. So I'll pop the links to that in the show notes. I think I'm running it, you see? I have all these books here. I've got Brené Brown sitting here, and I've got the Christine Neff up on there. Did I think to put up the actual date when I'll be running this? 17th of December, around lunchtime, I think. 17th of December, it's a Tuesday. You got to register for that. It's free. It's going to be about an hour. It's going to be a very safe space of connection with people and being able to get your own reflection and your own insights and be able to share as much as or as little as you want in that space. And I really look forward to meeting some of you in that or in that space and this opportunity as we round out the year. Okay. Whew, that felt like a huge weight off my shoulder. You've been my online friends as I've been able to share that story and how I've been feeling over the last couple of weeks, really, and how I've been trying to navigate it and working it out, because we're all works in progress, right? Thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode of the Leadership Lounge. I will still be back next week, and I look forward to talking to you some more. Take care.